The following attraction is scheduled for one show with a 45-minute time limit.
One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is not the same.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Welcome to Wrestling with Egos. Now celebrating a few days late, but whatever, don't judge us, kiss my ass. International Star Wars Day for all of you that are like us, which I think you can tell one of these things is not a Star Wars fan. Not gonna name names. May the Force be with you. My name's Patrick, joined as always, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. My name is Chewbacca, joined as always by the great Sith Lord Darth Vader, and then Brian. Welcome to the show. As you guys can see below us, just like you do each and every week, our social media information, Twitter, where to find us in the email, our Google repository, the notification on liking and subscribing to all this good stuff. We got a lot to talk about. It is Money in the Bank weekend, and this week we're also a few weeks removed, but we're still going to do it. We're going to have our own breakdown, a GOAT discussion, if you will. Not really an official one because he's already kind of on that Mount Rushmore, but we're going to look at the 25 years Triple H has spent in WWE and the pros and the cons and everything else. But before we get into that, one quick announcement. The following attraction is scheduled for one show.
One show.
With a 45-minute time limit that we overshot the hell out of last week. So gentlemen, if it pleases the Empire, I'm sorry, Brian, forget you on this one. RJ, if it pleases the Empire, I'd like to ring the bell and start the show.
Absolutely.
And there's the bell. Man, I gotta lose his hood. For the love of God, man. Woo! God, this thing was getting ugly. By the way, shaved head and wearing a hood, kind of a bitch. Moving on. A lot of great things happened this weekend, just topical weekly stuff. Only problem is it all happened on Wednesday. What do you expect? I'm assuming both of you guys have watched both Dynamite and NXT. I watched them both. Kind of springing this one on you. Let's just stick to Wednesdays. Name one good, one bad. If you got an ugly in there too, go for it. I'm going to start. The good isn't good. The good is great, and I'm probably stealing RJ's thunder on this one, but it's fine because I'm the executive producer of this show, and I can. The street fight at the end of Dynamite. My God in heaven, that was one of the most chaotic, hilarious, insane things I have ever seen in my life, and it was epic. Sammy Guevara getting his ass run over by a golf cart and the sell job on that. Holy crap.
And the tweet the next day when he woke up and said, anybody else ever feel like you got run over last night?
So good. It was such an amazing fight. And the fact that they started in Daly's Place and went all the way into the concourse of TIAA Bank Stadium where the Jags play. I mean, it was just, they had a plan already set out. They'd set a roadmap out for that show, for that match, and they executed it, in my opinion, to perfection. What about you guys? What was good?
RJ, go ahead.
I was gonna say the street fight, but I can obviously, there's other things I can pick. I'm gonna say actually the promo from MJF on Dynamite was unbelievable.
God, and I don't like him. I'm not a fan of him, but that promo was solid.
It was so good. So good.
That was I listened to that because obviously you had tweeted me I'm sorry, you had messaged me because I watch NXT live. You watch Dynamite live, and you're like MJF just cut like a all-time great promo. I'm like, all right, I'll catch it later. I watched it right after NXT was up, and I'm like, who the hell's he been taking promo classes from? Jake Roberts?
Probably.
I was like, dang.
So
I mean, it was really, really good. Brian, you got anything? We know you had a little bit of a personally rough week, and we won't go into details. By the way, guys, send some love, send some prayers, send some good vibes out Mr. Kriego's way, because you know what? In times like these, we all need to be lifted up.
Well, thank you for that. My good comes from NXT. Finn Balor is doing some of the best work I've ever seen him do in anywhere. And what's weird about it is, in terms of length, his promos are getting shorter and shorter and shorter.
Mm-hmm.
But he's probably the best there is at getting his point across in 90 seconds than just about anybody else you can think of. And, you know, yes, they're making us wait a little bit longer for his attacker, but I like, again, how they're with Finn, like he's on the chessboard. And now it looks like he's going to work with Cameron Grimes for a little bit, which is a good rub for Cameron Grimes because he wasn't doing much of anything before. So I love it. My bad also comes from NXT. I don't like how these cruiserweight matches are getting shorter and shorter. You know, you've got the time to spend. You could give them 8 or 9 minutes a match. You don't have to have it done in 3 minutes. So I think these guys deserve just as much TV time as Adam Cole does, just as much TV time as Velveteen Dream does, and Charlotte Flair, and so on. You know, I don't know how hard it is to block out a 2-hour show, but I think there's more time out there that you could negotiate for these people.
My bad is also from NXT. And I'm sorry, but I was very surprised that mentally I changed the channel that quickly on Karrion Kross. The entrance was, I'm sorry, the entrance for me was just like, okay, look, we know from anybody with a brain that has watched wrestling outside of the WWE bubble knows that the whole thing with Killer Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux, Killer Kross is doomsday. I mean, he's the end, you know, he's the end of times. Cool. Scarlett Bordeaux is sex in wrestling boots.
Smoke show, yep.
Yeah. I mean, she's the smoke show. Like I said, sex in wrestling boots, smoke show, same thing. But here's my thing. The whole lip syncing thing, and then her running around the ring like she was a mixture of Poppy and Io Shirai. I didn't get it. I mean, aside from that, the entrance was boss. But Charlotte was doing kind of wrecked it, in my opinion.
The lip syncing was horrible.
Oh, it was god awful. I mean, there are ways of making her look. If you put it on mute, if you ignore the lip syncing, she looked amazing. But the lip syncing kind of wrecked it. And I was like, what the bloody hell is this? So I kind of got lost on that. You know, imagine you have all this hype built up for somebody, and then the entrance kind of sucks balls.
Right.
I kind of was a little let down with the entrance. Brian.
Shockmaster, anyone? Just kidding.
No, there were no vignettes to tell of the Shockmaster's, arrival. The Shockmaster showed up. We got months and months of TikTok. Tommaso Ciampa getting his ass beat by Kross, and then Wednesday night. I'm like, what?
It went over real well on Twitter. People on Twitter liked it a lot.
So what?
It went over real well on Twitter. People on Twitter seem to really, really love it.
And you know what? I'll be the minority in that. I thought, again, ignore the lip syncing. I thought it was Boss, but you can't ignore the lip syncing.
Yeah, it did ruin it a little bit. I agree.
It's like saying, hey, we got a great football team, but our quarterback's an idiot. You can't ignore that. RJ, do you have a bad?
It's real quick and simple and probably might not even matter to a lot of people, but Johnny Gargano coming out and me not getting to hear Rebel Heart was pretty bad.
I like the new music, though.
Can't stand it. I hate it.
I like it.
And I hate it. I hate it as much as I loved Rebel Heart.
I liked it. I was down with it. You know what else? Keeping on Johnny for just a second. You know what else I loved even more? They finally named that slingshot DDT, and they named it One Final Beat. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, phenomenal. I agree.
I got one more thing topically I want to talk about, and it is AEW. And RJ, this is going to be right down your freaking wheelhouse. I have seen, not the light, but I have seen the blueprint. And it is as plain as day. And AEW, oh my God, if there was ever a case of somebody doing something pinpoint right, it's AEW. And today's class, boys and girls, sorry, Brian, I'm going to teach this one, is how to introduce and build a superstar. Exhibit A, B, all the way through Z, boys and girls. I give you Lance freaking Archer.
For sure.
Everything they are doing with Archer comes off legitimately nasty. And I'm loving it. This is because really and truly, this is the first real time that AEW has had to take someone that's coming in and really build them. Because everybody else that's come in is either a mid-card guy like a Darby Allin, who's going to work his way up into the main event, or a guy like Brody Lee or John Moxley, who already has that cachet of being on global television as it is. Even though Archer's been on global television, Archer hadn't been on global television in America. And a lot of people, while wrestling nerds like us know exactly who the hell Lance Archer is, a lot of people, sorry, I'm getting a little warm, a lot of people don't. And they have introduced him brilliantly. And then on top of that, as if that wasn't great enough, hey, we know you can cut promos, but don't worry about it. We're going to give you Jake Roberts. Then to top it all off, this past Wednesday night, they get Britt Baker involved. Britt knocks out Brandy with her shoe, and then Jake brings out the snake. I'm watching that, and I'm just like, I'm done? You win. I'm like, what? I have no words. And it wasn't a bad thing. I was just like.
Yeah, it was very good. Very well done.
I wondered when/if Roberts would have a python.
Well, we got our answer.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he's fine without it, but, in moderation.
Right.
You bring it out when it's like Finn bringing out the demon. You bring it out when you really need it.
Right. Now, I will say this, when we get to Double or Nothing, if we just cut it right here, I know there's more shows to go, but if we get to Double or Nothing and Cody goes over Archer, I'm done. Because they have built up Archer so well. And if they just feed him to Cody, and Cody essentially becomes his own company's golden shovel, I'll be done with AEW. I'm not kidding. It's just it would be one of the most asinine things ever done in professional wrestling history.
Yeah, Cody can't win.
That would be unfortunate. I mean, because, and here's another theory that I have. AEW so far, Cody being the exception, has resisted the temptation to put the, foregone conclusion at the top of the card.
Right.
Because if that were the case, then Kenny Omega would have every championship. He'd be, and Omega has been booked to be, I don't know if pedestrian is too
beatable.
Yeah.
I think the best word to use, beatable, because
same
in
thing
New
with the
Japan,
Bucks, same thing with all of the people you would think, okay, here's the frontline people. They're the ones that should have all of these championships, and but they're not. They're using Mox, they're using Hangman Page, they're using Darby Allin and Guevara and all these other people because they want to have a deep, well-rounded roster, as opposed to having a top-heavy one like another company that we know.
You also have to think that's exactly the same reason why they made their inaugural world champion Chris Jericho. We're not going to make it one of our guys. We're going to make it a guy who legitimately has cred in this business, no matter where he goes. Mexico, and America, Canada, doesn't matter. Chris Jericho has that GOAT cachet that he carries with him everywhere he goes. I mean, we once had Jericho as a topic of a GOAT discussion on the show. It was the very first one. While I was out of town, these two guys did it. Really and truly, we could have done without doing Chris Jericho because he's a part of that gold standard that we refuse to touch, like Flair and Shawn and Triple H, who we're about to talk about, but not necessarily in that conversation, like with the intangibles and all of that stuff.
And funnily enough, I never considered Jericho as the greatest of all time until we had that discussion. Because it took having that discussion to realize every little thing he's done, everywhere he's done it.
He's
kind of sneaks up on.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
He's one of those guys that belongs on the, not necessarily there. To me, there's a difference in the Mount Rushmore of wrestling and the Mount Olympus of wrestling. For me, it's Mount Olympus than Mount Rushmore, because Mount Rushmore, you can only have four heads on that thing. You can have as many gods as you want on Mount Olympus. Jericho, I don't know if he belongs on Mount Rushmore, but he's definitely on Mount Olympus, and it snuck up the same way Edge did. Edge is on Mount Olympus because of everything he accomplished. But, wow, he did all of this. Yeah, he did all of this. One of these days we need to have like the Mount Rushmore discussion.
Yeah, we do eventually.
Yeah, one of these days, and I got a feeling all four of us are going to have different answers. We might have one or two guys that might be the same. And I got a feeling those two guys might be Rick and Shawn. And aside from that, who knows? So, Brian, you were the one that had the idea, so I'll let you intro it as we have 28 minutes remaining in the show.
Why, thank you, good sir. Several weeks ago when it was announced that they were going to do a celebration of Triple H's career on SmackDown, I'll just leave it as they did a less than traditional way of doing it. It was essentially a roast, a farce, a Friars Club.
And not even a good roast.
Right. And they did a more traditional countdown thing the following Monday on Raw, but it got me thinking, okay, Triple H is, likes to poke fun at people and poke fun at himself. I get it. Maybe he signed off on it. Whatever. But the whole thing just came off as really odd. So I thought, we are a lean, mean, wrestle talking machine after all. We at Wrestling with Ego certainly can unpack and dissect in a timely fashion, of course. the career of Triple H. And what I wanted to start off with, because originally I had framed this in terms of the GOAT, but we said we're not going to do that. Triple H is the only wrestler that I can think of off the top of my head whose returns from injury are happenings. Somebody else comes back from injury and it's okay, yeah, returning tonight. Chris Jericho, yay. But when he came back in Madison Square Garden in 2001, Madison Square Garden almost ceased to exist because of the pop he got.
Yeah.
I mean, they were like way behind him. And then again in 2007 at SummerSlam, when he came back and wrestled King Booker, that was a pretty big deal too. He was hailed as like a conquering hero at that point. So that's one of I'm kind of like framing this unique things about the guy. His injury returns are happenings.
And here's why. You bring up a very good point that his injury returns are happenings. They are explosive pops waiting to happen, but you fail to mention why. Remember the first time he went out when he blew his quad while teaming with Austin against Benoit and Jericho. There was legitimate thought that he was done. Yeah, and he came back inside of a year. Because at that point in time, the injury that Triple H had was one of those mythical, how the F did you do this injury? Like Bo Jackson dislocating his hip while playing for the Raiders. Like, how the did you do this? Nobody expected him to come back. And then he came back for the Rumble. It was just, oh my God, he's back. And everybody was on board. Same thing in SummerSlam. He blew the other quad. And, same way, came back. So his injury returns are happenings, and they're epic because of the injuries he sustained.
Wow. That's so factual. That's phenomenal. That's absolutely right.
I mean, he's had, and even his non-injury returns, when he returns to television, Brian, I'll see your injury returns and I'll raise you one more. Because I just recently saw this on over the week, because I've been out of work and out of action for the past week with medication issues and dizziness and yay, fun stuff. But I'll raise you one more. Remember when The Undertaker came back with that countdown and came back to There Ain't No Grave That Can Hold My Body Down by Johnny Cash? Yeah. Was setting up for Taker's return for WrestleMania Atlanta. Taker gets to the ring, starts taking his gear off, and Triple H's music hits. What the hell? The last thing in the world anybody expected. And we got it. And the roof came off the place. So again, another holy shit moment with Triple H returning.
The wordless promo. That still, I mean, because no words were uttered by either guy, and yet we're getting Triple H and The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Yep.
That was one of the best WrestleMania match setups of all time. There's no doubt about
it. It would probably go down in the top 3 if Undertaker hadn't had 2 of the top 3 greatest WrestleMania matches of all time in the 2 years prior.
Right.
Sorry, Hunter. Neither one of your 3 matches that you had at Mania with Taker hold a candle to the 2 that your boy Sean had.
And I'll bring up something else too about him. I don't have the exact win-loss record in front of me, but there's this narrative out there about Triple H with his golden shovel and things like that. For somebody with a golden shovel, he sure loses a lot at WrestleMania. I think he's like 6-10 or something like that, 5-11 or something.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of high-profile losses to people. I mean, twice to The Undertaker, lost to Batista last year.
Triple H is 10-13 at WrestleMania.
10 and 30. I knew it was below 500. So, I mean, it's, for everything that people say about him, like he buries talent and things like that, I don't know that that's necessarily true.
It's not always true. He gets a bad rap in that way.
And
The way
I'll
that he put Rollins over in Orlando was unbelievable. That was star making. The way he put Rollins over in Orlando.
Look at it this way: has Triple H buried talent? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Has Triple H buried talent that probably was going to get buried by somebody eventually? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he bury people that didn't need to be buried? Maybe a few, but the majority of Triple H's burials have been guys that didn't have it. That, well, Triple H buried me. I'm going to go over here. And I'll give you one major example as to someone who thought he was hot shit, went somewhere else, and still didn't fully get over. Mr. Kennedy.
I love Kennedy.
He was cool. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Kennedy, Anderson, whatever you wanted to go, whatever name he wants to go by, he was cool. But when you listen to interviews and podcasts that he did, he thought he was bigger than the slot in which he was. Hey, before Ryback, there was Kennedy. I think I belong at the top of the card. No, you don't. You can be a main eventer, but you're not the man. Sorry, right. Bubba. And Triple H buried him because, as we would say down south, somebody got a little bit too big for their britches. So I've never really had a problem with Triple H in terms of burying talent. Did he go over a lot during that first heel run when it was him and Steph and the regime, or as Edge and Christian called it, the faction? Yeah, but you know what? Best heel in the business. Heel 401. Guess what, Brian? When Triple H was doing all that, what was Triple H doing?
Class was in session, and he was beating up all of my heroes.
Right, but what was he you want to do? He was making you want to spend your money how?
Yeah, he was making me want to keep tuning in to see who would finally be the one to beat him. And during
I
that,
kept tuning in because I knew nobody could beat him, and I loved him so
much.
And it took me spoiler alert, it took me a long time to make the math add up on that. Like I keep going back and watching my favorite match of all time, the Iron Man match from Judgment Day of 2000, thinking maybe this is the one where Rock beats him at the end. Nope, it's not. Triple H still wins. And it was, looking back on it now, I can see, okay, this is how this is supposed to work. This is what worked for Flair back in the 80s. I mean, the local guy or the national guy, like, okay, we're gonna beat Flair. No, you're not.
Yeah. In my opinion, and you guys can go with me on this or not. Truth be told, I'd love it if somebody disagreed with me. That way we could argue about this. From a psychology standpoint, he is the greatest of all time.
You can't disagree with that. I don't think.
I don't even think. I'm about to name some names, and this might be a little bit of wrestling fan blasphemy, but I'm going for it. Flair, Dusty, Shawn, Bruno. From a psychology standpoint, none of them touch Triple H.
I agree.
Triple H, from a psychological standpoint, was truly the game.
Because
I still get shivers thinking about the whole setup that led to the 3 stages of Hell match at No Way Out.
That was my favorite match of my entire life for a very long time.
Your search, now it's over. you big dumb son of a, just you never saw it. I could recite all the promos from that. I mean, I've watched those matches so many times, and just I'd have to do some research to come up with a guy that was more, psychologically, that rocked you to sleep, in a phrase that I love to use all the time. Like Triple H rocked me to sleep quite a bit.
Not just as a heel, but also as a face, because Triple H not only was a badass as a heel, was also smarmy and cowardly as a heel, i.e. Evolution. He was also a badass as a face, which we saw that many times. And he was also, because you can't be a coward and be a face. So what do you have to do if you're not going to be a badass? You got to be funny and entertaining. And
Right.
he did plenty of that too. So
Absolutely.
he was actually all 4 points of the square. I mean, and he excelled at all of them.
For sure. And he's got 2 of my all-time favorite storylines personally. One was, and in one of them he was a heel, and in the other one he was a face. So he's so dynamic. There's just so much that he's able to do throughout his entire career. He doesn't get as much credit as guys like Jericho get for changing their character, because he's always been Triple H, but
Right.
he did a lot of change to his character multiple times. When he goes back and forth from heel, he's been multiple different kinds of heel. He's been multiple different kinds of face. Like, he's so dynamic and ever changing. He's fantastic psychologist.
What are the 2 storylines?
The Austin one that we have already touched on, and then the one he did with Randy Orton when he threw him through the window.
Oh, I forgot about that.
When Randy handcuffed Hunter to the ropes and DDT'd Stephanie and then kissed her. Oh, that was one of the best segments in wrestling history. Oh my god. I could go on for days about just that segment.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was so good.
Because that was one of those segments, and I don't know if Brian, if you remember that one or not, but if you could have,
the whole thing.
If a fan could have reached to the TV and just ripped Randy Orton, we would have done it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh,
that segment made me feel like it's as an adult wrestling fan, it's hard who has been a wrestling fan for 30 years of my life. Like, it's hard to get me to really feel things like in my heart, but like, man, I loved that Randy Orton because he was so good at what he did. In that moment, I despised the man, wanted to jump through the TV and rip his head off. Like, I just felt so much for all 3 people involved in the ring at that moment. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Hunter's reaction, trying to rip off the ropes and freaking out, made the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. You got anything you want to add, Brian? Because I do, and then we'll move on.
I think my favorite comedic moment of his has to be when he and Shawn sent up Vince and Shane.
Absolutely.
It was to the letter. The cut of the suits, and all of it, and Shane coming out in the baseball jersey, and look at me, I'm dancing, Dad, I'm dancing. It was just so note perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Vince told him, "Hey, do whatever you want. I can take it."
First off,
it's
I don't
great.
think Vince ever told Shawn and Hunter no, and if he did, they probably ignored it anyway. One thing I wanted to point out on the Randy Orton thing that RJ was talking about real quick, and then I've got something to point out on yours, Brian. One reason I hated Randy Orton so much during that, it was like, you son of a bitch, you're making me cheer Triple H. Triple H, you son of a bitch. I have booed this dude for how long, and now you're making me cheer him. You're a son of a bitch. And Brian, while the parody of Vince and Shane was amazing, let's be honest, that would have never happened unless DX parodied the Nation.
That's true.
And I'm sorry, that is one of the funniest freaking things I've ever seen in wrestling. To me, the DX parody of the Nation is right up there with the beer bath.
Yeah.
And
You know, the crock just came from the bathroom and ooh, you should have smelled what the crock was.
still, X-Pac is Mark Henry. Hey, Rock, I smell what you're cooking. Smells like shit, but I'm eating some anyway. So how do you get your pecs to go all the way around to your back like that? Oh my God. And then Jason Sensation as Owen Hart, who just killed that. I mean, perfect. So we talk about all of these great things, and we'll get to the last, his most recent great contribution to wrestling. But from a match perspective, one match of his that sticks out in your mind from now to all of eternity.
That's easy for me. 3 Stages of Hell with Austin that was one of my favorite matches for years. Or that was my favorite match. I never thought it was the best match ever, obviously. But like
Right.
It was my base psychology wise, it was my favorite match ever for a very, very long time.
I would have to go probably the end of an era Hell in the Cell match at WrestleMania with him and Taker. Because that was a master class from both guys, only because they had at the time a combined 40 years in business.
Yeah.
And you're 40, 50 years in the business, not just WWE.
Right.
But you're just like, okay, this is 2 OGs doing this. Yeah. And then Sean is the guest referee. So for me, if I'm going to show somebody a Triple H match, it's actually one of two. It's either that one or it's a previous homework assignment. It's the street fight from Royal Rumble with Mick Foley.
Well, that was the other one I thought.
I go back and forth between the street fight from the Royal Rumble and I don't want to keep bringing up the Iron Man match, but I mean, it's, I will. And I'm sure that if I sat down and thought about it some more, I could think of some other ones. Actually, his rivalry with Daniel Bryan in the lead up to WrestleMania 30 was note perfect too, and they had a nice WrestleMania lid lifter that year. And then he came back and made his presence felt in the triple threat match at the end of the night. Made him earn it there too. So, I mean, the guy has been intertwined through, and I keep adding to the list of rivalries that he's been involved in. I mean, again, I could just sit here for the next 30 minutes and list all the guys that he's been involved in major feuds with. And I had forgotten about Daniel Bryan and Mick Foley when I made that list.
Right.
So,
two final things in terms of contributions to wrestling that I don't think we can gloss over. We at least need to acknowledge. Number one, Ric Flair does not have the second half of his career that he had without Triple H.
For sure.
Fight me on it. If you disagree, boys and girls, you can hit me up at Rant Mode On. Ric Flair second half does not exist without Triple H going, you're effing Ric Flair. Get off your ass and get out of your head. So there you go. And you know what? For all that he has done in the ring, I personally believe, and being a little bit of a homer here, the greatest achievement of his entire career is NXT.
because it wasn't a lot to write home about before he got involved.
and because they were doing their little, FCW was doing its thing and all that. And I remember seeing this story online where it was someone who posted the initial notes from the first meeting of people that were going to be involved in this project, which whoever posted this, initially called it Project H, because it was Hunter's baby. And there was a list of guys that Hunter said, if I have it my way, I'm signing all of these guys. And here are some of the names from the independents that were on that list: Tyler Black, John Moxley, El Generico, Kevin Steen, Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah.
And he listed all of these guys. If I get the opportunity, I'm going after them full bore. Well, they're all in they were all in NXT, all in WWE. So, I mean, he had the vision. And I got to be honest, once Vince steps down, I honestly think WWE is going to change massively, to the point where I honestly would not be surprised if we see another, for lack of a better term, revolution in professional wrestling. God bless you.
Thanks.
I agree with that. I mean, he's obviously being groomed to take over, despite what we hear about title changes and demotions and this and that. I mean, you don't do all of the work that he's done and be so intrinsically involved in the development of all of these people that we love watching in the ring, without him being the heir apparent, as it were.
Oh, he's clearly the heir apparent. And let's be honest, wrestling fans, we're all waiting for that day for Vince to step down. And let's just be honest. And honestly, if you're one of those people that's screw all things WWE, I'm only watching AEW, if you're being one of those kind of marks, well, one, you're missing out. And two, you better pray that the time of Vince McMahon lasts about another 5 years. Because if Vince steps down in the next 2 years, Triple H is going to step right in and hit the throttle and just go. My opinion, at least. That's not me trying to be a homer. That's me seeing what he's doing in NXT and thinking, if he applies that same strategy to WWE, oh my God, it's over. I mean, you can make that argument. I mean, it's not like guaranteed, shut up and take my money kind of thing, but it's all signs point to, this is a strong possibility. Guys, I got bad news. We're going to overshoot it again this week. We got 4 minutes left in the show. Whatever. We're trying. You know what? The time limit, this is like Nitro. We've got the time limit, but we can go over if we need to. We could have that overrun because, we own the network.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels good to own a network. I must admit.
Yeah. We own the network. So, homework time, gentlemen. Last week, I assigned for you in Ring of Honor. I believe this was Supercard of Honor. Can't remember the number.
It goes up to 11.
11. Supercard of Honor 11. Now, for the ROH Television Championship of the World, it is the defending champion, the villain, Marty Scurll, against 3-time ROH World Champion, member of the Kingdom, Adam Cole, baby. Boom. But boom. Hell of a match.
Yep.
RJ, I talked to you earlier tonight when we were coordinating our Star Wars outfits, and you kept doing this number.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go to you first.
Well, I decided that I'm going to give this match a 13-word review.
Oh, shit.
I reiterate, I love Kevin Kelly. And I miss Marty so much. I miss so much. I'll give it a B+. It wasn't over the top fantastic, but it was really good.
It was solid.
It had a lot of false finishes. It was really good.
A lot of finishes, a lot of heart-stopping action. I loved it.
One thing that has to be mentioned is that in this particular match, Adam Cole is a member of the Bullet Club and Marty Scurll is not, which is weird.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. I don't know why I was thinking that Adam Cole was Kingdom at this point. No, he was Bullet Club.
He had the Bullet Club, baby, music. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he had that music. I have a one-word review for this. Damn. I thoroughly loved this match. I thought it was great. For me, it was a B+, only for the simple fact that we've seen a lot of A's in our time on wrestling videos in this past year, so it's a B+. Brian.
This was my first time actually seeing a Marty Scurll match, believe it or not. And I loved his presentation, the way he came out, the way the light treatment and things like that, and the plague mask and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was a really good treatment of him. I also
Brian, look, RJ, show me again.
I saw. I know he's got one.
This is the same one he wore in that match, by the way.
Nice.
Not exact same match, but this is the same style that he wore for this particular match.
Yeah, it was in the crowd and I caught it. It's the same one. I don't think I also ever knew that Adam Cole was in Bullet Club. I know I watched the history of Bullet Club on YouTube, and I don't remember Adam Cole being in it, but that's on me.
Watch the segment. Make sure you watch the segment when he gets kicked out. It's awesome.
Because I thought that was going to happen at the end of this match, and then it just faded out, and the countdown for whatever was up next. So I'll have to go back and look at that. And the joint manipulation of Marty Scurll, that was going to be my ugly. If you had made me say an ugly, I would have teased the homework if we had been doing uglies earlier today. But because that, I know that's what Pete Dunne does, and I get it. Pete Dunne does it to the extreme, like he makes it a big part of his repertoire. I don't care whether Cole was selling it or not. It still looked like he shouldn't have had any knuckles at the end of the match. Yeah. And the match only gets a B for me because of the two. It seems like they were missed spots by Cole at the end. I don't know if he was just
there was a botch,
running on gas by that point. Running out of gas at that point. But there were two that they were trying to reverse the the pile drivers and stuff, and Cole fell down a couple of times. And the crowd turned on him a little bit. So it's it gets a B for me. But it is the most pile drivers I've ever seen in a match. Taker only does one, and it's enough to put you down. Boom, 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 boom. But it was a nice change of pace match for me. Nice to get see Ring of Honor get some run. So it definitely gets a B for me.
All right, who's up for this week?
All right, I'll do it. I got one.
All right. Whoa! I hang on. May I hijack it this week and you take it next week? Because I found a good one.
Is this like King of the Road good one, or trust you?
Trust me. All right. You guys know I've been learning how to play guitar for the last couple of months. If this match sucks, I will let one of you honky tonk man me with my own guitar.
All right. All right.
I'll take that action.
Okay, take that action. Monday Night Raw. The year is 2005. The date, May 2nd.
Rock's birthday.
Huh?
Rock's birthday.
Oh, nice. If I'm not mistaken, this is a Money in the Bank qualifier? I might be wrong on that. The city is Boston, Massachusetts, like that really matters.
Well, sucks.
Shelton Benjamin versus Shawn Michaels.
Say goodbye to your guitar.
In case you're wondering, yes, this is that Shawn and Shelton match.
Say goodbye to your guitar. Just kidding. I think I know the match you're referring to.
I'm about to say, this is the match where Shelton Benjamin gets separated from his body. And one of the nastiest finishes of all time.
For sure.
Actually, you know what? This might be one of the GOAT finishes.
It's really good. That's for sure. That is for sure.
Mrs. Rant Mode On saw this the other day and looked at me and went, how is he not dead?
Yeah, it's a clip that they played forever after it happened.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
I just recently saw it. I don't remember where it was, but I just recently saw the clip at the end of this match.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's a gift that keeps on giving. You're just like, oh, that was sweet. So, with television time remaining, like we do each and every week, we go home with some rapid fire questions. And this week is part 1 of 2 of RJ kind of getting back at us. So RJ this week has questions for me. And then next week, RJ will have questions for Brian.
Yeah.
Oh, how nice of you.
Yes. So, one moment, please. "60 seconds on the clock. I'm ready if you are."
All right. The first question is going to be from my lady villain, just so you know.
All right. All right. So are you ready to fire them off? I'll give a countdown if you are. 3, 2, 1, go.
What's your favorite cereal?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
What's your favorite piece of furniture in your house?
This couch.
Who's your favorite Disney princess?
Leia.
That was my answer. Yes. What's the favorite thing you saw? What's your favorite thing you saw in Las Vegas?
Found at the Bellagio. I've always been obsessed with them.
What's your favorite Star Wars character?
Vader.
What's your favorite championship belt design ever?
Big gold belt.
I knew you were going to say that. What's the worst gimmick of all time?
Mantar. There's a ton of them. We'll go with Mantar.
Who's your favorite AEW wrestler?
I used to say Cody. I'm kind of gone back on that now. I'm going to say, believe it or not, Sammy Guevara.
Okay. How many games do the Patriots win if Jarrett Stidham starts?
16.
What's your favorite thing about Baker Mayfield?
He stuck it to Ohio State.
Who is your all-time favorite Georgia player?
Because I was absolutely terrified of him when he played us, Aaron Murray.
That's all of them.
Nice. We might not have squeezed them all in under a minute, but I don't care. But yeah, dude, Aaron freaking Murray. The prayer at Jordan Hare, the Hail Mary that got tipped was the last time we had to see him. And I remember after that Hail Mary, he's throwing shit on the sideline, and I'm like, you know what? Because there was still time left on the clock, and I'm like, it's Aaron bleeping Murray. I'm not content yet. He has found a way to rape us up the butt more times than I want to count. This ain't over.
I definitely had the feeling of we can still win this game because we have Murray. So I understand.
And as soon as the game was over, no joke, I tweeted him and was like, as an Auburn fan, it has been a pleasure watching you go to war with my team for the last 4 years. That being said, damn it, I'm glad you're a senior.
I can understand that.
You liked it. But, oh, yeah, he was the one guy where I was just like, oh, thank God. Gurley, Chubb, I'm a little too young to remember Herschel, Marino, Stafford. I didn't sweat any of those guys the way I sweated Aaron Murray.
That's crazy.
I didn't even sweat Pollock that much.
That's nuts. Aaron Murray was like, I don't know. He was good for sure, but he was like, I don't know. I don't even think he's my favorite Georgia quarterback.
For me, now keep in mind, for me, I have to answer that as an Auburn fan.
No, right.
A lot of the other Georgia quarterbacks kicked our asses because they were supposed to kick our asses. There were a couple of times in that 4-year run, Aaron Murray wasn't supposed to kick our asses. I mean, his freshman year, we leveled the starter. He's the backup, and he comes into the game and pulls a sub-zero, just grabs us by the neck and just.
That was fun. That was a fun day.
No, it wasn't. I mean, that was the second least amount of fun I've ever had watching a Georgia game. The other one was the blackout game.
All right.
Look at my buddy Caleb and I'm like, we're going to lose this one. Why? Blackout jerseys, and that place just went up. That place just went up in a cloud of nuclear fire. We're going to get killed.
That was a pretty big pop. That's for sure. Yeah.
Coming soon to a YouTube channel near you. RJ and I are just going to wax poetically about college football. Brian doesn't have to be involved just because when we start doing this, Brian's just like, and I have nothing to add to this conversation. He's like, so how about them Cubs?
Right.
How about them Cubs?
He's like, raise your hand if your preferred baseball team has won a world championship more recently than the other two.
Okay. 2018, though.
Wait, I thought Chicago won. Oh, wait, that's right. That's right. The Red Sox cheated.
They gave us a trophy, though, right? At the end of the season?
They gave the Patriots trophies, too. But you know what? There's no accounting for taste.
Okay, before he starts showing us all of his Sox memorabilia.
Hey, how'd you feel about Noma?
I was wishy-washy on him when he was a Red Sox, but trading Nomar is the reason that we won the World Series in 2004, so I love him for that.
It's true. He was a sacrifice. Oh, Lord, bless this thy guy whose name we cannot pronounce correctly and give us a championship in thy mercy.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Nomar Garciaparra was a sacrifice, and I will always love him for that.
All righty. Well, I'm looking forward to the rapid fire that you're giving Brian next week. Brian, before we get out of here, any final thoughts?
Money in the Bank this Sunday. We'll have a little reaction to it next week. On my way out, I will give you my predictions for who's going to win both briefcases. I think it will be Shayna Baszler for the ladies, and I think it will be Aleister Black for the men.
I hope so. I hope so, but I gotta be honest, guys. I have this sinking feeling they're gonna do something stupid like give it to Otis.
Oh, I had that thought the other day when I saw a list. I don't remember. I honestly, I don't watch. I don't, I don't. And
Yeah.
so I saw a list of all the people, and I don't remember them all. But I remember seeing Otis, and I said, "Oh my gosh, it would be so Vince to give the briefcase to Otis."
Yeah.
I would go counter to everything they've been doing.
Well, it's
With,
Vince.
Well, yeah,
no.
but I think, if not Black, then AJ Styles makes a lot of sense because you want to reestablish him and goose the ratings a little bit.
Well,
I
first
would not
off,
have a problem if AJ Styles won it either.
AJ always makes sense. If your answer is AJ Styles for anything, then your answer is probably right. I don't think there is a point in time in the last 10 years where AJ Styles has been an incorrect answer. Hey, we need a new leader for Bullet Club. Name a name, guys. Well, how about AJ Styles? AJ Styles works. Hey, we need a new guy to debut at the Royal Rumble. How about a name? AJ Styles? AJ Styles works. We need a guy to be a leader of a knockoff version of the Horseman in TNA. How about AJ Styles? AJ Styles works.
And AJ Styles was the only thing that worked about that.
Yes, it was.
Hey, we need a guy to be the Grand Marshal for the 4-H Club parade. Oh, is AJ Styles available?
Yeah. Hey, if he is, guess what? AJ Styles works. Here's a question about Fortune, real quick. How the hell can you have a stable comprised of Styles, Kazarian, Rude, and who else was in there?
Oh my God.
It wasn't Daniels, was it?
No, it wasn't. Oh my God.
Wasn't it James Storm? Wasn't he
I think it was Storm from
tag team part?
Blackpool. Oh my God, who the hell was it?
All right, regardless, how do you have a stable with
Those three guys.
Styles and Rude, and the only guy that gets over is AJ? I mean, bloody hell!
Yeah, when you look it up, the fourth member is listed as James Storm, but I feel like it changed.
Okay. Dude.
And their logo is actually a logo of a team in our fantasy football league, which is
Nice.
funny.
Aces and eights got more guys over than Fortune did.
Oh, no doubt.
And the sad thing is, that's true. Then again, I'm one of those guys who thought Aces and Eights was freaking boss.
I liked it too. But I also like the Main Event Mafia though. So.
Oh, yeah. TNA was one of those things where it was like highs and lows. Their highs were really awesome. Their lows were god awful. So let's get out of here and stop waxing philosophically about wrestling, because we could do this all night long, just like a Lionel Richie song. So for Brian, for RJ, for everybody else involved with the show, you guys enjoy Money in the Bank. Hopefully nobody gets knocked off, nobody gets thrown off of the tower, even though there's rumors and innuendo that might happen. Here's hoping that you keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. I'm Patrick Slaughter, and that's our story. And are we done yet? Has it faded out yet? No? I can't really keep this smile up much longer, guys. Screw it.
Another satisfied customer.